This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, White Plains Week, the City News Roundup show with Jim Benerofe, the Dean of Journalism in the City of White Plains, and of course the anchor for all seasons, Peter Katz. And right now, it's headline time.
And here are the headlines for the week in White Plains, New York, USA. The endless winter continues. George Latimer gives first State of the County address. Westchester is moving forward. The Continuum apartment building opens and the Renaissance starts. Will have Peter Katz coverage. Plan to allow 6-story apartments at North White Plains Railroad Station surfaces. Public hearing May 7th. 120 guns are turned in at White Plains gun buyback. Soundview Manor subdivision up for zoning board hearing May 23rd. Captain Tammy Jo Schultz safely brings in her 737 and 144 passengers and crew for a landing on her Talent, a wing, one engine, and a lot of prayers. Governor Cuomo signs bill into law protecting state and property tax deductions by declaring them payroll taxes and charitable contributions. Ridgeway Country Club property floods again after 2 3/4 inches of rain. We'll have video. The State Senate District 37 election is Tuesday. Be sure to vote. Hopefully the winner will have an epiphany and gain some independence and ability to work for what is right, truth, justice, and the American way. Call the city clerk office to find where your polling place is. Number is 422-1227.
Thank you, Jim. And now to White Plains Week, Rolo Newsreel, March of Time. And that's the way it started this week. On Monday, 2 3/4 inches rain fell, according to Westchester County Airport. It was windy, 30, 35 mile-an-hour gusts, and everything was blowing in the wind, and it was nasty.
This is the winter that just won't quit, you know, except maybe this weekend we'll get close to springtime temperatures.
That would be nice. That would be nice. And we'll do one last panorama and we'll show you some bushes, and you'll see how it was blowing so hard the birds were hiding in the bushes, chirping, and it sounded like 4-letter chirps to me. Look at that. That's the way it was on the ground. Tough to walk.
That almost looked like the kind of footage you see during a hurricane in Miami, you know.
That's White Plains Week weather cam footage, not Weather Channel, folks. Where was Jim Cantori when you need him, right? That's a Jim Cantori shot, right? It should have been right there. Now, big news. The first State of the County address by George Latimer. There's a picture of Mr. Latimer, the county executive, addressing the county legislature. And there's a closer shot of him. What did we think of this speech?
I thought his speech was very good. I thought he was trying to push for consensus on a lot of things and getting people together instead of dividing them. And I thought the speech was well received, and
he touched all the bases, you know. And one thing that stood out to me was that he seemed to be reaching out. He was reaching out for various segments of the community. He was reaching out to the business community, and he was mentioning things like the airport being under review, the contract to lease out the airport, and Playland, the contract to turn operation of Playland over to a private
They are
operator.
under further review, as the NFL would say.
So in terms of news, I don't know that there was anything earth-shattering to come out of the speech, but
wasn't.
nonetheless, it was a restatement and summary of the Latimer administration's approach, certainly to the next year, and
bring
probably
everybody in,
all
get
4
their
years.
input, and that means a lot of waiting.
Right.
I would think. Now,
Actually,
we don't have to wait anymore.
No, that's right. I was going to say the waiting is over.
For the Continuum.
That's right. Elcor says its new building, the Continuum, at 55 Bank Street, already is about half rented. And they're on track to begin construction of the second tower next year. The construction company which did the building for Elcor is LRC Construction. The LRC is Louis R. Capelli, who is the developer of the city center and the Ritz-Carlton here in White Plains and numerous other Westchester developments. Now, Capelli told me at the opening that his company will be building the second Continuum tower.
The Continuum, a 16-story luxury rental apartment building at 55 Bank Street in White Plains, had its formal grand opening on April 18th. There are 288 apartments and a host of amenities, in addition to space for 3,000 square feet of ground floor retail. A second 16-story tower with 273 residences and more ground floor retail is slated to break ground early next year. Brian Barry is Senior Vice President of Elcor, the developer of the project.
The building has been extremely well received by the community. We have gained momentum during what are challenging months in the winter for leasing. It's been a very positive process and experience during that course of time. We are a short walk to Metro North train station, which is a 35-minute ride to Grand Central, as well as what I view as the core of the city, Mamaroneck Avenue, which has retail, restaurants, and entertainment, which provides the city with a critical tool to creating that vibrancy that residents are looking for in downtown locations today.
White Plains Mayor Tom Roach.
This is an exciting day for me. I've already toured the property. It is beautiful. The location is tremendous. One of the things I want to do when I wanted to see happen in our city when I became mayor is get some more life at this end of town. The corporations are coming into the city. The commercial vacancy rate has plummeted. It's the lowest it's been since 2006. Our train station was announced recently. Metro North is going to do a $92 million complete overhaul of the station, which plays right into what we're trying to do here.
Benjamin Boykin, chairman of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, was on the White Plains Common Council.
2007, this was a parking lot that the city used. I was on the council with former Councilman Dennis Powell, who's our chief of staff, when we approved this project. 2008 happened, okay? And now we are 11 years later here at the grand opening of this wonderful facility. It really stands out. It has a beautiful facade. It's just outstanding here. And we are so pleased that this is happening in the county seat. Transit-oriented development, activating this part of the city.
Then the ribbon cutting. The building was constructed for Elcor by LRC Construction, LLC, whose chairman and chief executive officer is Louis Capelli, known as a developer of numerous projects in Westchester.
I feel very, very happy that we were able to build this project over the last 2 years, bringing it on time. More importantly, I'm very happy that we were able to build it next to the Metro North train that was running 10 feet away from where we had to excavate. I was worried about every night some bad phone call coming in, but thankfully the job was built safely. It's a gorgeous project, one of the most beautiful projects I've ever done.
You can see Manhattan in the distance from the deck outside of the building's Sky Lounge, and there's a view of the Metro North train station and other vistas of White Plains. Studio apartments range from 523 to 587 square feet, one-bedrooms from 710 to 732 square feet, and two-bedrooms from 1184 to 1256 square feet. 57 of the units are priced at affordable housing rates.
And now it's on to phase 2 of the Continuum.
Right. Jim, what did you think?
I think the building is beautiful, and I think the amenity package is second to none. I think that they have 2 rooms where you can do entertaining, one on the penthouse level and one downstairs. I think the apartments are on the expensive side, but it's a luxury apartment.
They didn't say
Costs.
they didn't say whether there are commitments yet on the retail space. It's only 3,000 square feet, so I don't anticipate that it's going to be a shopping destination for.
No,
for anyone.
I think they are probably looking for convenience retailing.
To serve the residents primarily, or
coffee shop,
maybe coffee shop office workers,
dry cleaner.
Well, hopefully there will be something a little more upscale on the first floor to match the high scale of the other 15 floors. Now, North White Plains Railroad Station was in the news. It came out this week for a story in the Wall Street Journal, and that they are looking at changing the zoning at the North White Plains Station from 4 stories to 6 stories to bring in new apartments. Now, this was originally suggested years ago when the Westmoreland Avenue project was suggested and approved, but they decided to push this North White Plains action off to later.
Well, you know, that train station area has seen rather slow development over the years. They have added some parking there to try to make it, you know, another place to go to if you want to get into the city for commuting purposes. There are some apartment buildings at that end in walking distance of the train station.
Want to build more? Yeah.
But you know, if you take this idea of North White Plains redevelopment and couple it with White Plains train station development, maybe there is a future pattern emerging as to what we can expect along the right of way.
You're going to need a lot more parking.
Yeah,
a lot more parking. And there was a big gun buyback this week, Peter.
Well, you know, last Friday while we were recording White Plains Week, there was an event going on over on Lake Street at the Mount Hope AME Zion Church. State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman brought his gun buyback program to town, in which anyone can turn in a gun without fear of being identified or prosecuted. No questions asked, and you receive $100 in return. According to Schneiderman, 120 guns were removed from circulation that day.
Every day, more than 300 Americans are shot. Every day, 90 Americans die from gun violence. And every day, 7 of those Americans who die are kids or teenagers. The reality is there are far too many illegal, unwanted, or unsecured guns in America, and unwanted guns, forgotten guns, neglected guns can become deadly guns, guns that endanger our children, our families, and our law enforcement officers. So that's why we're here today. Back in 2013, my office began a statewide gun buyback program to give New Yorkers a chance to anonymously and safely turn in illegal or unwanted firearms to law enforcement. In return, they get a preloaded debit card and a free gun lock. The response has been outstanding. Our gun buybacks have taken in more than 1,500 guns. You can see today that we've had an incredible turnout already, and the gun buyback program is ongoing.
Now, it's important to recognize that this is just one of our options in trying to reduce gun violence. It's a major problem here and throughout the country. Gun buying, gun buyback programs are of help and assistance, but it's just one of the many things that we have to do to try to reduce gun violence, to protect people from these weapons being used against them, as well as using them on themselves.
Someone at some point in their life comes into possession of a gun, and now they don't know what to do with it. They hide it in a closet, they hide it in an attic. Maybe a 7-year-old finds it and decides to bring it to school. Maybe when they pass away, someone finds it when they're cleaning out the attic. These are the concerns we have, and this gives people, and I believe that although the money is, I'm sure, welcome, for many people this is a burden off of them, because they haven't known what to do with these things, and now they can take them someplace where they know they'll never harm anyone.
You know, I happen to think this is a great program. I think it needs more publicity. I think there should be more public awareness. And I go back to many, many, many years ago when I found a gun.
Yeah.
Turning that into the police was a major hassle.
That's what they should make it easier to do that.
They treated me like a criminal. I was trying to do something good by getting rid of this gun.
They may not be far wrong.
They treated me like a criminal,
Yes.
and really it's a discouragement doing it that way, you know, for people to dispose of unwanted
call
weapons.
up, listen, I have a gun, how can I get rid of it? Just call the police, and they should be able to do something about that. Now, go to the shocker of the week that shocked everybody with a reasonably great ending, and that was the story of Flight 1380.
John, Southwest Airlines Flight 1380 was en route from LaGuardia to Dallas on April 17th. It was at 32,000 feet, 144 on board. A fan blade on the left engine broke, apparently due to metal fatigue, and caused what's called an uncontained engine failure. That's where engine debris explodes through the cowling surrounding the engine. In this instance, shrapnel went into the fuselage, shattering a window. The airplane suddenly depressurized, and a woman sitting next to the window was partially sucked out. The flight diverted to Philadelphia for an emergency landing. There's the route at the bottom of your screen. Pilots train for emergencies like this, and the training and her flying skills really paid off. The only fatality was the woman who was partially sucked out into the sub-freezing atmosphere. She was out for 20 minutes, so we're told. She also was struck by debris. Captain Tammy Jo Schultz, she's on the right in this picture, who was a Navy fighter pilot, was the pilot in command of the flight. Now we have excerpts from the radio communications between her and air traffic control. Now in this edited excerpt, and you'll have to listen carefully, she is talking with Philadelphia Approach Control. Note how calm and businesslike and professional she is.
I understand your emergency. Let me know when you want to go in.
Yeah, we have a part of the aircraft missing, so we're going to need to slow down a bit.
Southwest 1380, speed is your discretion. Maintain at any altitude above 3,000 feet, and you let me know when you want to turn base.
All right, down to 3,000, 210 on the speed. Southwest 1380, you'd like to start turning inbound.
Southwest 1380, just start turning southbound there. There's a Southwest 737 on a 4-mile final. We'll be turning southbound. Start looking for the airport. It's off to your right and slightly behind you there. And altitude is your discretion. Use caution for the downtown area. Advise you maintain at above 2,200 for the MVA.
Okay, could you have the medical meet us there on the runway as well? We've got injured passengers.
Injured passengers, okay. And is your airplane physically on fire?
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing. They said there was a hole and someone went out.
I'm sorry, you said there was a hole and somebody went out? So the airport's just off to your right. Report it in sight, please.
In sight. South 1380, airport's in sight. We're going on 27 left. Switching tower. Good day.
And the airplane landed safely. They had tried to revive the woman who was partially sucked out of the window when the airplane depressurized. They were unable to do so. That was the first fatality on a U.S. airliner in approximately 9 years.
And I believe the first that Southwest Airlines
Yes,
has
was
ever
first at
experienced.
South.
Yeah.
Right. Now we move to the Albany State House. Governor Cuomo signed a bill this week.
Yeah, actually, he came to Westchester to do that. He came to Westchester on Tuesday. The idea was to sign a new law, and it's a complex law designed to provide pathways to get around the Trump tax bill, which sharply limits deductibility of state and local taxes from federal income tax returns. Now, he was at Teamsters in Elmsford for the signing.
We'll change the income tax, and we'll make it a payroll tax instead. What does that mean? Right now, the employer hands you a check, and you get taxed on the income. We'll say we'll have an option where the tax is on the amount paid by the employer instead, a payroll tax. What does that do? Payroll taxes are still deductible. So it costs the employer nothing to pay the tax because he deducts it. And then you get the check and you don't have to pay income taxes on it. And you actually save the deduction. Well, we're going to tax property taxes. Okay, we have an idea on that too. We'll set up charitable not-for-profits. And instead of paying a property tax, make a charitable donation to an education not-for-profit. Make a charitable donation to a healthcare not-for-profit. And then you get a deduction for the contribution to a charitable organization. And in this bill, we say the local governments can do the same thing. So Westchester County can set up an education fund, a health care fund. You contribute to that fund and you get a charitable deduction. Is it perfect? No. Is it complicated? Yes. Would local governments have to shift dramatically? Yes. But when a missile is headed your way, you do whatever you have to do to get out of the way of the missile. And we passed this law, which does everything it can to circumvent it, but we have to get it repealed, and we have to get it repealed in November. It is not just a question of politics, because this affects not just Democrats. It affects Democrats, Republicans, independents, short people, tall people. I don't care. Your taxes go up.
I got it.
You got it?
I got it. Sounds simple to me. No problem. Okay.
It's very,
don't worry about it.
It's very complex. Local governments would have to pass a lot of regulations and set up a lot of bureaucratic handling in order to make this work. The IRS might very well say, what are you doing?
A lot of task forces, I think. But that is intriguing to me. Now,
it's a nice idea, a good effort. So
a federal lawsuit is on the way to
no doubt
as we speak. Now, back to the rain.
Actually, the opposite, because Cuomo had vowed that there will be a action by the states to try to overturn this particular portion of the Trump tax bill based on the notion that this is double taxation, which is not allowed.
Well, it certainly will wind the trail. We don't know where the trail will wind, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, there's a trail through the old Ridgeway Golf Club.
Yes, this first up is a slide of the Ridgeway Country Club back in 2011 when the following thing happened. Big runoff. And
flooding over there.
Yes, flooding right there
Now
for
this
heavy
is
rain.
the property
on
that Fasney wants to build the school on.
On Monday, next slide, it came back, and Dan Seidel describes it for us.
April 16 at 1:35 in the afternoon. We just had a major rainstorm, and it's draining now. But this entire area was filled. Ouch. Munch's backyard was filled since about 9 o'clock till about now. The 12th hole was filled with the usual rain, and we have Ridgeway Pond reestablished. So this is all the result of the winter storms. There we go. On Ridgeway Pond.
There you go.
Yeah, there
So,
we go. On Ridgeway
what a
Pond.
great environmental review.
I think
Don't you
I think I'll write a poem called
Yes.
On Ridgeway Pond.
On Ridgeway Pond, yes. Boy,
That
I
might
tell you,
even make a
they-
movie.
They really did their due diligence, right? Now, Trumpster.
Really, it's not a funny thing.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
the environmental aspects of the Fasney project have been subject to some degree of controversy.
6 years, but maybe they missed something, you know?
Yeah, Trumpsters. Well, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has joined Donald Trump's legal team. Giuliani says he knows how to shut down the Mueller investigation into Trump's campaign ties with Russia, money laundering, and other corrupt practices in 2 weeks. Giuliani says he can shut it down in 2 weeks. It's been revealed that CIA Director Mike Pompeo made a secret trip to North Korea and met with North Korean President Kim Jong-un. President Trump met with the Japanese Prime Minister at Trump's private resort Mar-a-Lago instead of using the White House, Camp David, or any of the resorts in U.S. national parks. And guess who was pocketing millions by renting his property and hotel rooms and lots of other stuff to the government for the meeting? FBI Director James Comey, former FBI Director James Comey, has been making the rounds of the talk shows this week. The Justice Department released to Congress his notes and memos written after encounters with Trump, and Republicans in Congress promptly leaked those notes and memos to try to discredit Comey. Read the New York Times, the Washington Post, watch television, learn about what's going on in Washington.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, want to learn about the school budget? See people to be heard on the internet. We interview Dr. Joseph Ricca, White Plains Public Schools superintendent, and his trusty superintendent for business. And
Vaccaro Teisch, right?
That's right, yep. Right. And you can see that on WhitePlainsWeek.com.
WhitePlainsWeek.com, on YouTube, and on WPCommunityMedia.org, and also on television on many of these same stations.
And you can see me coast to coast on Biz TV this week on Thursday. If we can have the... Could we plug my own show, please? Please? I guess we're not going to do that. Anyway.
They'll charge you for it.
Anyway, John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.